To order. I want to thank you all for showing up. Our first business is the pledge. If everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, there's no action as a result of that executive session. No one signed up for public comment. I have a consent agenda I need a motion for.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved second. Any comments?
I do have one.
Okay.
It was just a clarification about, it was about the LPO. I know I had a lot of things to say last week, but it was about the options, and I just didn't want it to come across that I didn't think that the LPO was an option. I just thought it's a good option for our district.
In the meeting minutes.
In the meeting minutes. It's a good option for some students in our district. So, that's all. The way I read it was kind of, I didn't know if that was exactly what.
If you want to revisit that with Kelly for wording you think is clearer, we can always amend them at the next go round. Okay? So it's been moved and second. Any more comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next section is administration, and we have the introduction of Matt Brass as new Director of Technology. I'm going to let the superintendent take care of that.
All right, so welcome Matt Brass. This is the second time we're kind of formally introducing him, but now Matt has an opportunity to give an hour presentation about his background. So Matt, as is the tradition, we like to have our newly hired administrators do a brief introduction for the board. So take it away, Matt.
Stand here. So my name is Matt Brass. I'm the new Director of Technology. I expect so many people to come just to hear my introduction, but thank you. So I have a fairly diverse history in technology, pretty much since I got my first computer, but I am a graduate of Sandpoint High School in 1994. Went to the University of Idaho, graduated there in 1998 with a degree in secondary education, but during my time at the U of I worked for the technology department, teaching classes to students, faculty, and staff on all different levels of technology. At the end of college, I had a job opportunity. Somebody, a couple weeks before I graduated, CompuCom offered me a job, and they offered to train me as a computer and systems engineer. And so over the next 3 months, I got certified as a Microsoft MCSE plus networking, Novell Administrator, Novell networking, Compact, Intel, A+. I got all those certifications, and I worked in that field for about a year before my manager came and asked if I would like to start to do programming, which I had just done a little bit of. And then over the next few years, I learned programming and kind of taught myself in the off hours. And when I left CompuCom, I went for a startup company in Portland, and I worked there for about 3.5 years. And it's right at that point where I really learned the importance of project management, time management. We delivered 13 on-time products while I was there over the course of our employment. There were a team of 4 of us. And if you've ever dealt with software engineering, you realize that is a nearly impossible feat. It hasn't really been done since from groups that I've worked with. From there, our daughter Sadie was getting close to school age, so we decided we wanted to move back home and be in a place where a smaller community where we can raise our kids and have them go through the school system and not have to move them around. So we decided to move back to Sandpoint. I worked with a charter school when they were just getting started, helping set up their computers and their networking, and then started my own company a few years ago in software engineering, and ran that all the way up until now. I also have coached the cross-country and track team here at Sandpoint High School for the last decade. And that is something that my wife and I have done together and find incredibly rewarding. It's the thing we do after work that just kind of adds meaning. So it's something that this is a community that we truly love. We're both from here, and look forward to just doing my best in this position. And just as a side note, I really want to thank Eric Olson, who was here before me, because he left the position in a great place after his year. He did a great job bringing me up to speed this last month. So Any questions? Thank you.
Just want to say welcome aboard,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, you want to introduce Sherry Hatley?
Yeah, you bet. We have Sherry Hatley's here tonight, our principal of both Northside and Hope last year, but she's happy to be just in one school next year. Sherry, a few years back, started a summer professional learning academy, and it has just grown and grown, and it has proven to be a great opportunity for our staff. And one of the coolest things about it is much, if not most, I don't know if it was all this year, 90% of it is done in-house, our trainers, which I don't want to steal her thunder, but I want to say how impressed I have been with Sherry and her leadership with professional learning. So take it away, Sherry, you bet.
I just wanted to update the board tonight with some details about Summer Professional Learning Academy, or as it gets abbreviated, like all acronyms, SPLA. So we had 3 days of workshops, June 15, 16, and 17. We had 10 workshops over three days. 90, as Sean kind of already said, 90% were our own folks, so 9 out of 10. They made it was nice and easy to do the math on that one. 9 out of 10 were our own people. The one person who does not belong to us was recommended by Jackie Johnson for LEP or early language learners, as well as English language learners. And so she focused on strategies for developing language and vocabulary, and it was very well received and positive feedback. So we had 90 people attend over the course of 3 days, not necessarily 90 different individuals, because probably a third of the folks attended all 3 days. And 71 credits were earned, and they are paid for. The entire SPLA event is paid, this year was paid for our rural grants. In the past, it's been paid under Title I. Specifically, we have to spend a certain amount of dollars in professional development, and each year that number gets smaller and smaller as some changes happen with legislation. So this year it was with our rural schools grant. The credits that teachers earned were paid also by that grant. And in the responses, teachers were very grateful for that opportunity to earn credit that was paid for, as well as they're grateful for the lunches that we have during those 3 days. By providing lunch on site, we can have a very short lunch so that our days are about learning, have lunch, come back and learn some more, and then end at a reasonable time of the day so that you still feel like maybe your summer has started a little bit. Let's see. Of the 9 that were our own, 1 of which was presented by Eric Olson and Jeff Demansky from our IT department. And that one was incredibly well received, not just because they had a great topic, but because they really team taught exceptionally well. And so I would like to make a plug for the future that Jeff provide our teachers with further training. He did an excellent job. He has teacher training in his background. He knows how to teach teachers, and technology isn't always the easiest thing to teach adults, and he did a fabulous job. So I'd like to encourage us to have him do more for us. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. It costs the 3 days, paying for our presenters, paying for lunches, paying for credits. Credits is by far the largest chunk of that, but we're just at $9,000 for those 3 days of training. And one of the other comments that was made in the evaluation piece is that teachers feel very honored that our own folks are asked to present and teach them. They're learning from their colleagues, and they feel respected because their expertise in our own district is appreciated and valued.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
Anyone have any questions for Sherry?
Is this the level it's been going on for a little while, 3 days in June, or is this kind of ramped up?
We've been doing 3 days for easily 3 years, possibly 4. I think maybe the very first year we did 2 days.
It's great, it sounds great.
And in the past, we've offered, 2 workshops per day, and really this year it was 3 and then 4 on one day. And one of the comments was that the offerings were so rich and so good that I, as a teacher, some people are, well, I want it to go to more than just 3, and so can you please offer these other topics again in the future? And I have those recorded, so we can certainly look at that either for next year or other times.
Great.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Good.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thanks, Sherry.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and we got the approval of the alternate authorization teacher to nurse certification. I'll toss that to you.
All right, so this one here, you might remember this from a year ago. We knew it would be a 2-year process for Tiffany Arstead. She's a special ed teacher half-time and then a title teacher half-time. As you're probably aware, special ed is not, you haven't designated it a hard-to-fill area, but we know it's a hard-to-fill area. So a year ago, when we had one of our new, very good teachers say, I'd love to do half-time special ed, we encouraged her to go this route so she could get certified. So this would just be a renewal of her alternate authorization, and she'd be completed by the end of next school year. So,
And this requires a motion, I believe.
Yeah.
Does it not?
I'll
Yeah.
make a motion that we approve the alternative authorization teacher for new certification for Tiffany Arstow.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other comments, questions for those? No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Our next item is the interviews for the trustee zone 1 seat. And I'm going to lay out the process, and then we'll just go through each section. So the process is going to be, and by the way, there's like 3 microphones. You all have to kind of share them as you get, just slide it back and forth. The board's going to ask the candidates question. Every candidate will be asked the same question. So we're going to start down at this end. Geraldine will ask the first question, Barb will ask the second one, Joan will ask the third. And then we'll start at this end, and she'll ask you the first question first, and then you'll get the second question first, and you'll get the third question first, so on and so forth. And so both sides are rotating through. Everyone has a chance to be first and last. We have 12 questions. If don't feel obligated, to go on beyond what you feel the answer is, but make sure you take enough time to answer the question thoroughly. After all the questions have been asked, then the board will have an open discussion right here in public session. Once that's completed, I will ask for nominations from the board, and they do not require a second. It just takes one person to say, I nominate so-and-so, and then once all the nominations have been made, then I'll close nominations, and we'll vote for each nomination in order that they've been nominated until we hit a candidate that has a majority vote, which in this case would be 3 votes. And so the first nomination would get voted on, and if they get 3 votes, then the process is over. If they don't, then it goes to the second, and so on and so forth. So that's the process. Having gone through all of the applications, I would say that we're in a fortunate position to have 6 great candidates, and I know this is going to be a difficult process for us to go through because of the people that have put their hat in the ring. So we might as well just go ahead and get started. I'm going to have Geraldine ask the first question.
Yep.
oh, do you want to do
Wait.
introductions?
Yeah,
or-
we should probably.
Oh, I'm sorry. Goodness gracious. We'll start at this end. Please introduce yourself, and then we'll just go all the way down. I apologize.
Hi, my name is Barbara Schreiber. Hi, my name is Melissa Davis. Kathy Rose. Sharon Banning.
Curly Decker.
Bill Stevens.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Our first question is, why do you want to become a board member? And we'll start down there. Madden.
Hi, thank you. You know, this came up last year, but at the time I was otherwise engaged with a few other community commitments. But a few years ago, my kids started school at Northside. I now have a going into third and going into second grade sons at Northside. And in that time, it's become increasingly important to me, the education that they're going to get. And in those couple of years, I've seen such great teachers and enthusiasm from the teachers and the parents. And at that time, I've gotten involved in PTO and for the last few years. But I also feel like serving our community is very important to me. And now, with my kids going into school, this is what's important to me. It's important to me that they have an education that I think is going to prepare them to be as successful as they can be, whether they go to college or not. But I think education, and what I've even seen in just the last couple of years, what we need from them is going to be changing so rapidly. To me, I want to be part of that procedure to make sure that it is progressing in a way that will prepare them in 10 years. Because we don't know what they're going to need in 10 years. But I think we need to make sure that we have a district that has that in sight and that we're always moving towards what we're going to need in an unknown time. So that's at the key of it. I have kids, I have skin in the game. I really want to make sure that they get the education I think they're going to need. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to kind of echo what she said because I'm a Northside parent as well. And my kids have had an amazing education through the Northside program. And now I have one in the middle school and I have one in going into 5th grade. I agree. Education is rapidly changing. We're not competing on a local scale anymore. We are competing on a global scale. And I want my children to be able to compete with that. I would probably recommend that they do go to college. It's one of those things we've talked about since they were little kids. In order to be competitive in college, they are going to have to step up to the education in this community. And I think we do a very, very good job in Sandpoint. I'm also kind of a rather competitive person, and I would love to help shape this district to be one of the number one school in the district, or in the state. I believe that parents and educators and the board and the principals, we're all a team, and I want to be part of that team at a higher level.
You don't need me to repeat the question, right?
No, I think I understand why.
You don't need to keep saying it.
I moved here from Massachusetts 2 years ago. My kids are older, they're 20 and 25. They went through the public school system in Massachusetts. They spend a lot of money on education back east. I think we're doing a pretty good job here with the money we're spending. But I just don't want it to get to the point where it is back east, because I don't think they got any better of an education than the kids are getting here. Now, I did go through the campaign last May, and I met a lot of people in the zone, and there's a lot of people who feel they don't have a voice on this board. Okay, I'm talking about the people who might not have kids in school, that are retirees, that are the taxpayers, and I think that's a real concern. So I think there needs to be a little bit more balance on the board, and I do have some school board experience in my past, so that's one of the reasons I did step up to run last year. I think that's about it.
I too have skin in the game of going to be first grader and going to be fourth grader. I've had the privilege of being able to work in the schools and to meet the teachers and to be part of the process. I've played this game before, participated in this, and realize how important it is. And the job that you all do is thankless, but necessary. And to be part of that team, and to be able to communicate with my community and to represent them. I get to be one of those retirees and one of those parents at the same time. So I've got a lot of experience and wisdom that I can contribute to this community. Thank you.
As my application says, I am a retired teacher from this school district. And the reason that I applied, I didn't realize, of course, there were so many applicants. I didn't want that position to be empty for any time at all, because it's so important to have that continuation. And I've seen this board do great things. And I would just like to say that my whole life has been in service to our nation and to our school district, and I'd like to continue on after my retirement.
Being last in line, I know what mistakes I should not make. I have went through almost all the schools here. Played basketball in Southside, but they used to knock me out of the ring. Playing in grade school. But I started in the old Kootenai school, downsized to a 2-room school out at Selly, in the north side in the first classes. I went in there. And it was a modern wonder to go to a modern school. You know what it's like to step up from old to new. And I graduated from here. I actually graduated and left for the Marine Corps within 1 week and came home on vacation for 20 years. My children have went to school here, or most of them. My wife went to school here and graduated. Even she was in the Army. I was in the Marines. I like to work with the community projects. I was on the library board because I seen a design flaw, and I'm not a design engineer. Snow does not slide up against a wall and hope the wall don't fall into a bunch of plate glass windows. And I couldn't understand a round room for a library. But we built a library, and I learned that I could talk to the people. We got the bond we wanted. The only reason we got that bond is because I talked my mother into voting. But it wasn't going to cost us an arm and leg to do it. But I've been in the schools. I work with baseball when I get a chance. Barbara's husband is one of our coaches for Legion Baseball. But I've been in every school whenever possible to the 5th and 6th grade for flag education. A little history on there. Throw a little history in there for our kids. And being able to do that is a big plus, because a lot of places you're not allowed to do that in this country. In this country. I worked with Boys State. I was a director for 6 years. I've held a lot of offices where I've had the responsibility of working with people to accomplish major goals. And with that, said about enough, except I'm willing to do the task to get selected.
Okay. Yes. Had it there? No, no more? No?
Can I just talk loud? Okay, perfect. Now, what do you see as the board's roles and responsibilities?
Excuse me. Well, obviously to set policy, to work with the budget, to hire and fire, and work with the parents and the school, as well as, with levies, and identify needs that need to happen in the school district.
I see the role of the school board as hiring the superintendent and working with the superintendent to provide the best education possible for our kids, whether that be career-ready or college-ready. I see a responsibility to keep our buildings maintained, upgraded, safe and secure. I also see the responsibility with the taxpayers' money. I think that's a big responsibility. You're the fiduciary responsibility for the taxpayer. And that needs to be part of the equation.
Not to be redundant, but all the previous that was said, obviously. And to be open to listen to the community, be available. You've been pretty good role models in that. To encourage as much participation of the community into this process. Don't know how to do it, but would certainly like to work with the team to do that.
I see the job of the school board is to work with the community and get the community involvement in the schools. And not just in one zone or another, but in the entire district. And that's a huge, huge job to do, to get people involved outside of their own zone. Along with that, of course, the hiring and firing, the money, the budget, the fiduciary overlook, and but the most important thing is the community and that community involvement.
All the words have been stolen. I think the board has a great obligation to the taxpayers to be very careful with their money. Don't spend it on things that might look good today, but will probably end up being frivolous. But look around other parts of the country and see if they're doing something we can afford to do that'll take us forward. Don't be scared of new ideas. Because there's somebody out there, it might be a first grader, is going to come up and say, why don't we do this? And you stop to think about it, he's seen a problem that we haven't seen. So I believe it's just a job, a task to be thrifty and listen to the community.
Oh, not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're back here? Yeah, I didn't even know my own rules. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Being last is difficult.
Yes.
I just want to say, ditto. But what a number of the things that was previously brought up made me think is, basically I think as the school board, you have to make sure that we're trying to achieve what we have through our mission statement, which is putting our kids first, giving them opportunities to achieve, to excel, to be competitive, to have a successful future. But in doing so, I will say I own a construction company. And part of being the manager of the construction company is to make sure that the team I assemble around me is a good team that is going towards the same mission. So you're in charge of hiring a superintendent, but to not micromanage everything that goes on in the school district, but to believe that your team is the right team to achieve the goals that you have set for the district. But I bring up my business experiences. One of the things that was brought up is every day I know I am not spending my money, I'm spending my clients' money, and they have allowed me the opportunity to be responsible for that. And I see that as, your budget is much larger than my budget on an annual basis, but I still see it as the same thing. You have to look every line item by line item, make sure the expenditures are going where they're supposed to be going, and that everyone is being responsible with the taxpayers' money. And that's something I do every day, because I know it is not my money I'm writing checks with. It is my clients' money, and I have to be accountable to them in the end. So I also think that's part of what being a school board trustee is, being accountable to our community, being accountable to our taxpayers, but most importantly, I think being accountable to our students. So, thank you.
Do you have enough time, sufficient time and energy to devote to this position? At certain times in the year, it requires a great deal of time. At other times, just our meetings. So do you have that kind of time and energy?
I've attended almost every school board meeting in the last 18 months. I am retired. My children are older. I have plenty of time, and I would devote whatever it takes to fulfill the duties of the position.
Good question. Not only the time, but the energy. I know there's a lot of reading involved. It's homework. And the district I came from, our bi-weekly agenda was that thick. So this is a piece of cake. Not really. I don't want to discount any of the time and effort that you put in, but I do recognize that it is a lot, and it's not always bright and pretty and sunny. It's a wintertime job too, and you have to get here. So my answer is yes and yes.
Since I'm retired, both from the Army and from the school district, I have the time, I have the energy, and I have the will to do it.
I should have sat there, even all my own. I'm retired on Social Security and got disability. Time-wise, it takes a lot of time to sit on that board, and I commend you for sitting there for all these years you've been there. I will have the time to do it. I have nothing in the fire that can't be put away, or some legionnaire or other veteran will step up and take my position. They say I'm supposed to be prestigious as a past department commander. All I did was sign the paperwork and keep our membership up for 1 year. Didn't get 100%, but we got it going. This year we're 30 people shy. But the thing is, when I take a job, I give it to just my heart. I put myself into it. Sometimes I have to be slowed down. Hopefully the other board members, if I'm selected, will say, whoa, slow down a little bit. Because if you don't, my wife's going to hit me. I guarantee you. She's over there smiling ear to ear now, giving it. Thank you.
To answer your question quite simply, yes. I'm blessed to have the affordability, that I am afforded flexibility in my schedule. Often means I'm working at the office on the weekends, but I do have a flexible schedule.
There's a phrase, if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. And yes, I am a busy person. I have a full-time job. I work for a competing construction firm, and I am a mom. But my children are getting older, and at some point in your life, you need to start doing things for you, and this is something that I would like to do. And I am kind of a rather energizer bunny, so yes, I would have the time and energy.
That's great. We made it through, right? Okay. We're going to start with you, and it's going to be what qualities and behaviors should board members exhibit? Before you get into that, because I don't want to forget, I don't want the opportunity to pass it by, and I would be remiss if I didn't recognize and be thankful for the service that our two candidates down at the end, Mr. Burley and Mr. Stevens. I've had the opportunity to read their resumes, and they're very impressive, and they both served with distinction, and so I wanted to say thank you for your service before we, and I wanted to do that before I forgot. So anyway, I'll repeat the question, Sharon. What qualities and behaviors should board members exhibit?
Dignity, loud voice, integrity, courage to actually answer the questions that are asked, honesty, brevity, availability, and I'll leave some for the rest of you.
I would echo the integrity. I also think that a board member should be courageous, and in that courageousness, be able to make the right decision, even if it's not the popular decision. And that's why I'm listening. The ability to listen to people and the problem, whether it's perceived or real.
I'm really out of everything you say. Robert got most of it, and this other gentleman that's retired, I shouldn't say anything about it, he was Army. But integrity, I think, is the main thing. If you don't have integrity, you don't have the community's trust. And you will not get this job done if you don't have your integrity and their trust. That's all I got.
I would echo that, the honesty, integrity, and I think being a woman of my word and doing what I say I'm going to do, but also to be critical and inquisitive. I've been to some board meetings and, watch you ask questions and not just accept everything that's handed to you, and I think that's very important. And to be thorough in the research so that you come prepared. If there are questions, you have thought about them and are ready to submit it. But really, on top of what we've all talked about, is communicating, which right now I'm a little nervous, so a little better than that. But, and also working as a team and understanding that it's teachers, it's the superintendent, it's everyone is a team to make sure that this district excels.
just as everyone else has said as well. But I would also add calmness, efficiency, humor. I think you need to be able to see the humor in situations because it's a diffuser. And I think you need to be non-judgmental. So that's what I would add.
Well, I agree with all those, as well as the respect for everybody, even if they have a differing opinion. And I see the code of ethics here, and I read through them earlier, and I agree, this is exactly what we have to portray ourselves under.
Okay, Geraldine, we're back to you.
Already done. Okay. Describe the superintendent's role.
The superintendent's role, as I saw it as a teacher and as I believe, is that that leadership that is provided to the staff of the district and the openness to hear problems and problem solve. And as one of my commanders once said, don't bring me a problem unless you have a solution. And I think the superintendent's position is to receive those solutions and to weigh them and see if they are the correct solution.
I'm not going to say much to that, except thank for saying it first.
Hi, thank you. I see the superintendent's role as to see what the goals and the programs and what the board wants to see for the district and to work towards implementing that from a top-down method. I also think, the superintendent's role is to be the person that his staff needs to go to. You represent them to the board and bring any concerns that they may see on a staff level so that the staff feels that that the superintendent would really represent them and their concerns to the board. And then also in the other direction, taking the concerns from the board down to the staff. But I will say this on a personal level. I have been impressed with Mr. Woodward's accessibility as a young parent with young kids. Gosh, I'm scared of principals sometimes at the beginning. But he's always been accessible to the students and parents, and that's also very important.
I would also like to add to what has been said. I think I see the superintendent as being kind of the head of the idea. He's kind of the solution-based, goes out and looks what other districts are doing, what is working for other districts. He's kind of like, the big giant head, and is, sorry.
I kind of like that.
He's the brains, and behind the operation in a sense. I also applaud Sean being very accessible. He has answered my emails personally, which I applaud. Thank you.
Superintendent Woodward's always been accessible to me. Every time I have a question, he's actually responded. He's actually invited me in several times. We sat down and hashed out some of our concerns. I look at the superintendent as the manager of the staff in the schools. He's the leader. He's the liaison between what's going on in the school district and the board, both ways. He is to go out and find new ideas for us. How do we get more for our schools? How do we improve? What are the programs available that we should consider? I know he's doing a really good job because he recently got his bonus and his raise. So I congratulate you for that. And I guess that's all I have to say.
The accessibility is such an important role, not just to the parents, the community, but the advice that he gives to the board, to be able to problem solve, and to, I think one of the most important roles of the superintendent is to listen to the will of the board. And sometimes that's got to be hard to do when he's got probably a lot more knowledge than all of us in the management of the ship he's in charge of. And flexibility, I'm sure there's incredible ideas that come from the teachers and programs, and his ability to present those to the board and perhaps add new things that grow our district. And the growth of the district is paramount. And bringing all those new ideas, I don't know how you go out there and fish for them, but you've got a good lure. Thank you.
So you, Mr. Stevens, you have the longest question so far coming up. It's a two-part.
I got all that?
Do board members or the board have a role in the day-to-day operation of the district? Second part of that question is, can you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
Well, the first part, yes, they have something to do in their day-to-day running of the school district, but it's indirectly, in a way, that's Mr. Woodward's job to overlook that. It's the board's job to give him the guidance and the funds and buildings he needs or whatever to educate our youth. Now, could you give me the second part again? It went out this year.
That's okay. The second part is, can you support a board decision that you're not in favor of?
Yes, I have done it before. I don't like it, but and after a while, if you sit and look at it, if you're not in favor of it and you see it working, you'll adopt it as your part of your own idea. There's no problem there, because I've worked for some real stubborn people in my 20 years in the Marine Corps. And we managed to get through it all. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
As in relation to day-to-day operations and being part of that, I would say I'm looking at as day-to-day how schools are run, how administrative offices are run. I would say no, because I think it's the role of the board, again, to make sure that we have proper people in place to be managing the schools, the administration, the facilities, and that's our job, is to make sure we have set those guidelines to what we want, and that we have the right people in place and they have the right people in place. But I do feel that if we see that something that we can see is not running well, then it is our responsibility to bring it up in a proper fashion. In terms of supporting a decision, a board decision that I don't agree with, yes, as long as I know I voted my conscience and I voiced it honestly, it's still a 5-person board, and there's a majority rule, and as long as I'm good with my vote, I will support the decision of the board.
There is a role of the board in the role of operation, that you are the support staff in essence of the superintendent and the teachers. You should be accessible and open and be able to listen to the information concerning the operations. So yes, I think there is a role in that sense. As for a board decision, like Barbara said, I will vote my conscience, and if I don't agree with it, then it is the majority rule, and, you know, there is no I in this team.
As far as day-to-day operations, I feel that's not the board's duty. I do feel we should be accessible on a daily basis, whether constituent emails with a question, you know, we help out whatever their concern is. But if we, like Barbara said, if we have the right people in place, we have the right policies in place, that should just run on its own. The board should be concentrating on other things. As far as being a vote on the board that doesn't go my way, I've been there plenty times. I've been there in the last school board that I served, and I'm just 1 out of 5. And that if the board votes differently, that's the way it is. And you have to accept that and move on.
It's not the job of the board to micromanage and be hands-on in day-to-day. In volunteering at the school, if I were a board member, I would just be a volunteer at the school, not the board member at that point in time. And supporting a decision I don't like, I think we all do that every day, and in that we have to accept the vote of the majority. And that's part of working together. And I totally agree. If you have voted your conscience and you get outvoted, it's a tough pill to swallow, but you got to do it. So, of course.
I also don't believe that the board is involved in the schools on a day-to-day basis. It's that overreaching administration of the district, and to echo what's previously been said, the right team is in place, the board doesn't need to have that involved. Now, as far as accepting a vote that I disagree with, that's why there's 5 members on the board. And the vote could be 3-2 against my choice. But like the previous candidates have said, if I voted with my conscience, then I can accept that.
You started, so we're back to the beginning.
Yeah. This is another 2-part question. What kind of relationships should the board have with the community, part 1, and with parents and families? You can answer those both separately if you want to.
Well, I think it's very similar in terms of accessibility. As there have been a number of comments, I do feel that, you know, typically this is a position that's elected by our citizens of our zone. And so I do feel that we have to make sure that we are accessible, because we also need to be listening to what the community members want and what their concerns are. I think in terms of the role is accessible, listen, and to bring any of those concerns to the board to be discussed and then handled in the manner in which they're supposed to be. But I also think as parents and teachers, I do know, as an active parent at Northside, we talk a lot. We talk to our teachers, we talk to our principals, and when our superintendent is there, we accost him and ask him things too. And if I were to be a board member, I would hope that somebody would see me and say, Barbara's here, I'm going to bring this up, I know she'll take care of it. Or at least bring it to the board's attention. So that's what I meant. Thank you.
The board is part of the community. We live here. We eat at the restaurants. We shop at the stores. We have a financial duty to spend our tax money wisely. we also need to be respectful and responsible in regards to our community members when they have concerns. We also are friendly, and we're, like I said, we're all part of this community. It's the same thing with the parents and the family. You know, Barbara and I both spend a lot of time at Northside, and you know, we see the board members there, and we see Sean there, and we have accessibility, and I think that is a really key component of being a board member, is accessibility.
I look at the relationship as two-way. I listen to the constituents, bring their concerns to the board, bring the board information to the constituents. When I was campaigning, I went door knocking. I talked to a lot of people in the zone. And a lot of them didn't know what was going on. They felt they weren't informed enough. That's something that should be addressed. I think that information needs to go both ways as far as the representative.
Always remembering that you are a representative, and I know it sounds silly, but you don't go to the grocery store looking like you just came out of the shower. You're still representing the school board wherever you are. Being friendly, being courteous, and respectful. And when you're a representative, you don't get to go out and spout your opinions. It's keeping them to yourself. It's a discipline. And allowing people their opinion and to be able to be open to listen and to bring it to the group. And you almost can't be, you become a part of something and you're not just that individual anymore. And it is a giving up of something to be a part of a board or any public position. That's it.
The availability and accessibility in the community, being out in the community and always available and non-judgmental. There's a lot of people that have ideas and thoughts that we don't agree with, and you just can't be judgmental when they present their perceived problems or their real problems. You just have to accept it and bring it to the board and discuss it.
This is, if you're elected to a board and you're running somebody else's money to make something better in our community, you're going to have positive feedback and negative feedback. You have to be open to that person that you meet in the restaurant or grocery store. They recognize your picture in the paper, which I recognize some of you, not all of you yet, but I should. That's my downfall. But you got to listen to them. As a board member, they'll shout at you. They'll be mad. You have to be able to talk to them. Sometimes not so gently, but talk to them, bring them down, listen to what they got. They might have a major complaint that you haven't seen, or something that's cropping up that you haven't heard about yet. But you also got to be gracious to that other person that comes up and says, you're doing a good job, but could we possibly try and do this? You look at it, you bring it to the board, and you do something about it. But it's public. Being a board member, you better be versed in working with people. It's just good public relations to be known out there. And it does help when you have to go break the ice to them and say, we need more money. But they will listen if you're straightforward, and they'll bring you back to good stuff.
Okay. What are the current challenges facing education and school boards by extension?
Isn't it always money? In this state, we experienced a serious lack of funding from education, and we all know that. And I watched my little school, our Northside School, be targeted, and I don't know if all of you were on the board at the time, when we had some serious budget downfalls. And it was pretty contentious, some meetings at Northside Elementary School. And that is the duty of the board to look at those areas of closing a school. Unfortunately, the board voted to not. And I think that seriously, that's one of the main issues right there.
My concerns within this district specifically is the vision for Clark Fork and the alternative high school. I feel like that is something that really needs to be worked on. There's a challenge there and there's opportunities there. But I feel like we don't have a long-term vision. We don't have a path to get there. And that each year we're trying something different. And I just feel that that's not setting a direction is not conducive to improving those schools in the future.
I think a major challenge to any Board of Education is the state and federal mandates that take decisions out of your hands. And most of those mandates take the majority of the budget, leaving you very, very little discretionary. And explaining that to the teachers, the parents, and the constituents that, you know, a lot of these things are really out of our hands. And handing them the phone numbers of the state and federal representatives and getting their help in perhaps changing these mandates and giving our local boards the authority that they need to follow the direction of their community. I think that's taken out of your hands, and it takes a lot of creativity to personalize your district's education. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
It's always about the money, and it's along with that, it's student population, because especially in this state where funding is based on student population in each school, as that population goes up and down and up and down, and we have had in the past a very mobile population of students. One of the things that I did when I was working at Hope was looked at the student population that we had, and I found that 65% of the students that started in kindergarten were not in my 6th grade class, and 65% of the students that were in my 6th grade class were not in kindergarten at Hope. So it's a very mobile population, and to be able to manage the funding that is based on that population is a very tough prospect.
Challenges. Everything that's been said up here is, covers a lot of what I got to say, but one thing about a challenge, if you look outside your own perimeter or our own district, see what another districts do. They got the same problem we do in Idaho with funding. But what are they doing that we can improvise here to assist our students and our taxpayers on their bills? Because if we work just within our own district without an open mind to what's going on around us, we're doing a disservice to our own taxpayers. Taxpayers, excuse me. Get a little dry up here. Thank you.
Chairman, can I bother you to ask that question again?
Sure. What are the current challenges facing education and by extension school boards?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't get sidetracked.
Okay.
I think education, one of the challenges is I do think we're in a rapidly changing world with rapidly changing careers, technology, but I feel what's difficult for education is it's our responsibility to make sure that kids, you know, as I use my own kids as example, that Jack and James in 10 years are going to go out and be able to be competitive and be successful. So I think that is incredibly challenging as educators, that you need to think far enough ahead and be adaptable so that when things change, we can change. So I think that's, to me, one of the toughest things for education. And as a school board, it goes along that as well, is that you have to be able to recognize if things are changing, listen to the school staff and administration, and not feel that we have to always do the same thing all the time, but that we can't just change for change's sake. And balancing those two, I think that's got to be really challenging to make sure we feel like we're doing what we're supposed to do, but not just doing it because we have to do something, but to be really considerate of that. Thank you.
Brings us back to Geraldine.
We're back on me. Just describe your personal experience and involvement with public schools in the past 5 years that qualifies you as a school board member.
Like I said earlier, I did move from Massachusetts about 2 years ago, and I did serve on a school board there. It was a small town with one elementary school, one class per grade, and then the town was regionalized at middle and high school with the neighboring Amherst, Massachusetts, if you're familiar with UMass Amherst. And really, I mean, that answers the question. I actually served, and we had to work on our own and with Amherst as well. So we had actually double the meetings because we had to meet for the elementary school alone, and then we had to meet for, you know, the upper grades.
In the last 5 years, I didn't think I'd have to be involved in schools again. But because of family needs, I got to be involved again and work in the classroom, learn the language of the teachers and the kids, and liaison with my community, and help. We don't have a PTA as such, but the parent volunteers that help put on all the programs. I've been involved in that, and that's my last 5 years involvement.
Hasn't been 5 years since I retired from teaching, so that's part of it. But since I retired, I'm still volunteering, especially with the outdoor education programs at with elementary school.
Well, I'm going to use my little platform here as a veteran a little bit. You asked what I think we could be doing better in our school district. We have scholarships available. They're not big ones, but they can grow into big ones. Available through veterans organizations and other outside sources that we can tap. The school board has got to be open to getting these into the school so the children have a chance, because not every child can afford to go to college. And if we don't give them that opportunity to get the money to go to college, the school board is worth nothing. That's our bottom line. Thank you.
Well, in the last 5 years, I can talk about the last 2 years, my experience with the school district. And again, it's at Northside. My 2 boys have been there for a few years now. At that time, since that time, I believe I am a pretty familiar face on the school campus. I've been on the PTO for 2 years. This past year, I was the treasurer of the PTO. And one of the things as being the treasurer has really shown me how, and being part of the PTO, is how important it is to get parent involvement and also to raise funds. As the treasurer, I have written all the checks. I know how much we have done to help support our schools, our teachers, and the special programs that they want to do, and sometimes if we don't have the funds for it. And I did just want to kind of say this because it's a little bit about me. I have always thought teaching is a great profession, but it scares me to death. So when my son was in first grade, I said, okay, yeah, I'll volunteer in class. And that year I did volunteer every week, so I did get to see the teacher and students. But it was the most anxiety-ridden 45 minutes of the week at the beginning of the year, because I felt so responsible for these children to actually do what the teacher asked me to do. By the end of the year, it was great to see how the kids really learned and progressed, especially in first grade, the kids who weren't reading very well, if at all, at the beginning of the year, and how far they came. So, you know, it was really that experience that made me care a lot more about how we're teaching our kids, because I got to actually see what the work the teachers do actually has on the kids, not just money too, but the ones who maybe needed that a little bit more.
My experience with the education system, it goes back further than 5 years. I worked for Coldwater Creek, and we helped start the whole PACE program. And we were also part of our community service in the creative department. We would go and volunteer in the classroom at Kootenai. We would rotate through. So I have now a middle schooler, and and a fifth grader, and he's always been kind of a challenge. And so I've been in the school and volunteering in his classroom, as well as my husband. He puts on programs through the Forest Service. They do a little board for rivers and streams. And so this year I was really involved at the middle school, because he's definitely as a challenge. And so I had to work a lot with his teachers and the principal to put together a program to make him successful. I spent every Friday in his classroom last year with Mrs. Sturm, and you guys are not allowed to let her retire. So, only 2 more. So, yes, I'm very familiar. I spent a lot of time in the schools. So.
Okay. Do you have any specific changes you want to make in the school district policies, programs, or the various school curricula being offered? And if so, what changes do you want to make and why?
I want to get rid of Common Core.
I think we've heard that from you before.
yeah, I think you kind of know that. We're making a lot of changes. In the math area, we just adopted a new program, so I don't know until it's applied whether it sounds good so far. I'm glad we're getting a program. I mean, that would have been, a year ago, I would have said, let's do something in math that will be consistent and that the parents know how to help their kids. You've been solving that problem. And in seeing that and watching you find solutions, I know that more of those types of things are going to come up. And we went through quite a process just to get this new math program in it, and it's expensive, so it's a commitment. I wouldn't like to change it. I would like to just participate in making it successful. And all the other new changes that are coming up, I know at Hope we're going to be doing a whole new type of classroom structure. I'm not here to say to change it, but how can we help the teachers and the parents adopt these things and keep them successful and moving? Sorry, I forgot my mic.
Where are you?
One of the things that I saw when I was a teacher is if we have a curriculum that stays consistent year after year, by the time those kids are in the upper grades, that curriculum is down. They've got it. And when you change the curriculum constantly, you don't get that continuity from grade to grade that you do if you keep that same curriculum 4, 5, 6, 7 years, with upgrades, of course.
I agree with the changing the curriculum every year or every couple of years throws the kids off. But if you keep it the same, it's going to be dull. So I'd like to resurrect my teachers from class of 1961 and 1960 and run them through school today. They'd probably quit. But the thing is, I can say for my classmates came out of school, it was our teachers that made a difference. So if we don't keep it so the teachers can teach it and it's the same in every school and the parents can understand it, so if they meet the parents from another school, they can talk about it intelligently and possibly see changes you have to make. But I think we do have to just keep everything the same in the schools, but be open to change as it comes down the road at us.
One of the things I think about kids is I think they rise up to our expectations. So I always think that our expectations of their learning ability and what they can excel at, we always keep that high. I do think we have some wonderful programs in the district. STEAM down at Southside, the ELP program at Farman. I think it's the track program at Clarkport. I think further expanding programs like this that understand that not all kids can just sit in the classroom, listen, regurgitate, but to do some experience-based learning and to make sure that we include that. And I do think that as a district we are doing a lot of things, and I'm so impressed with what the programs we have, but if we can expand those and at least allow every school to have an opportunity, because every kid learns differently, and I think as long as we recognize and give those kids the opportunities to excel, who might not be ones who can just sit in their seat. I was the type who could sit in my seat, I could listen, I could regurgitate. I don't remember anything. My husband had the hardest time in school, had to get special help, and he remembers everything, as his wife is annoying. But I do think not necessarily changing anything that we have going on, but expanding the things that we have that are going well.
I agree that your kids rise to the challenge. And yes, with the Common Core, I did have to do a Khan Academy occasionally in order to help my 5th grade teacher kid with it. But the thing is that with our challenges, as Barbara has alluded to before, with the ever-changing world and technology, to be stagnant is to not challenge our children. And I grew up in the state of Idaho, and I believe that I got a very good education, and I went to college at the University of Idaho. But my children are getting so much better of an education than I got. The only thing I would recommend changing is tying Title I to low income. We noticed it at Northside. When we first joined Northside, 60% of the student body was subsidized lunches. When the economy crashed and a lot of the lower income people either moved out or I don't know what happened, but we had a changing body out there and we lost the Title I program. Well, my child, we didn't qualify financially for reduced lunches, but he definitely needed the Title I in reading and in math. And I don't think it's I think it's a statewide policy, but I believe that we should challenge that sort of stuff, that special needs and special help should not be tied to finances. So that's time to say about that.
Trustee Older, I don't know if I misunderstood the question, but was this regarding policies or curriculum?
Do you have any specific changes you would want to make in school district policies, programs, or various school curricula that is being offered? And if so, what changes would
So I
you
can,
make?
okay. I admit I'm not totally versed in the curriculum that's being used. I think that's more of the superintendent's jurisdiction. As far as addressing a policy change, I just think something might be revisited in the future, and it was a subject that was broached a couple of years ago, probably before I moved in here, which was the security of the schools. And recently, there has been a new policy instituted in Garden Valley District, and I think maybe that discussion needs to happen again. Just the discussion. I'm not saying that there's any solution here. It's just in today's day and age, maybe that's an area that could be discussed again.
This is a multi-part question. What is your view of the respective roles of, number 1, the school board, number 2, the superintendent, and number 3, the teachers, in the development and selection of classroom material, curriculum, and textbooks? Can you repeat that?
That's a long one. Go ahead and read it again.
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah.
Okay, I know, I have a pretty soft voice.
Who's on?
What is your view of the respective roles of the school board, number 1, the superintendent, number 2, and teachers in the development and selection of classroom curriculum, textbooks, whatever?
Well, as a teacher in this district, I sat on many curriculum committees, and the teachers are the ones that have to use that curriculum, and their expertise is very important, but it can't just end with them, their choice. There has to be involvement on up the line also. And so the ultimate approval or disapproval of curriculum, in today's age, all of our hands are tied with what's being forced down from Washington, D.C. and Boise and everywhere else. So the actual curriculum to meet those needs for those higher up government agencies, it's a tough choice to make. And I remember I sat as the chair of the technology curriculum committee one year, and we were supposed to decide on a curriculum for teaching technology in the school district, and we were given a budget of $2,000 for technology teaching. You can't do it. Teachers can't do it with ideas like that coming down. And obviously our curriculum committee, we decided that we just can't deal with this. If you can't give us more money to build a curriculum for teaching technology, then why are we here? So everybody has to be involved in it.
It starts at the top. You come up with a curriculum, give the superintendent to get it out to the teachers and get them on board. But it also turns around at the teachers, if it's not working, to tell the superintendent so he can tell the board, so you can find out why the students are not learning, or the trouble with doing this instead of that. So it's a two-way street, and everybody's got to know their responsibilities. And I know the teachers are responsible for a lot of things in the kids' lives. They did a good job in mine. See, the other mother got involved someplace. But it's got to be with basically the teachers, but it's got to be both ways. There's no two ways about it. It'll never work any other way.
As we discussed, I believe it's the board's role to set our goals. What's the larger goal that we want to be as a district? Convey that to the superintendent, down to the teachers. But my thought on this is, in my experience as a professional, I learned so much from the other professionals around me. I asked Mel, what do you do about this? How have you faced this challenge? And I think that if the district allows teachers opportunities to have further education, like Mrs. Hatley's program she was talking about, because oftentimes you're learning in those programs, but you might also learn from the other teachers in those programs about things that work in their classroom, work in their district, work in their state. And I think that's really important, talk amongst themselves and maybe bring those ideas to the superintendent. But I also feel it is the superintendent's role to look at what's working on a larger scale as well. And then I think the board needs to listen to the teachers, what's working, what's not working, and listen to the superintendent, what's working, what's not working, because the board, aside from some who may have been teachers or may be teachers, for the most part, it's not your role to be the educator, but to listen to the educators about what they feel is working and not working, and make sure that, as he said, it's a two-way street, but to make sure I think everyone in the trenches is really getting a lot of the information and moving on up.
I believe it's an integrated role, that it's a partnership. For example, our Mrs. Whalen at Northside introduced the puppy program. And she had gotten this, I don't know, somewhere back east, I think. And my daughter was the first class that came through that puppy program. She came out of the first grade with a third grade reading level. And now that program is being rolled out to other classrooms in the district. So you as the board and the superintendent listened to a program that was really working and it was really exciting for these kids. So it's a supportive role, it's a symbiotic relationship. You can't move forward as a district if you're not all on the same page.
I do agree with a lot of that. The superintendent and the teachers are the ones who are using the curriculum and textbooks. they need to work together. They know what works, they know what they need. They try something, if it's not working, be willing to, try something different. But that, they have to work as a team. One thing I'm afraid of is that we're losing local control. Slowly, but we are losing it as state and federal government regulations are telling us more and more what to do and what we can't do. You got to keep an eye out for that, because I believe local control is the best control for our students.
In choosing textbooks, listening to the teachers, I think, is just paramount. And having opportunities for parents to take part in those exercises. I watched a program being, it seemed like shoved down our throats, shoved down the teachers' throats, and they didn't get to use their teaching abilities. They had to follow this new thing and do it, and they were like up at 4 in the morning to learn what they were having to teach that day, and it was a struggle. And I watched the they didn't, it seemed like a chore for everybody to come to work. It wasn't a good atmosphere to be in for that year. But they got through it, they did it, and we all learned a new language. And we didn't do it again the next year, so somebody listened, and it came from the bottom up. Although the first directive came from the top down. To not be closed-minded and to be able to change things, even though we've put a big part of our budget into something and it's not working, I think it goes through the board, superintendent, and teachers to be able to change that without taxing, literally taxing the people, but serving the needs of the students. Mostly, I think it's the board's responsibility to listen and lead, the superintendent to advise. The teachers are doing the practical application, and the parents and community have a role, and somehow getting them more involved. And I know that you have everything available online. A lot of parents don't have a clue they can go online and see these board meetings and find out what's happening. I don't know what we can do but I think that's a paramount role of the board, the superintendent, and the teachers, the principals, to get those parents more involved.
Yeah, no, you're on it. It's,
Oh, yeah, you did.
He already answered? Yeah, and I'm supposed to keep track, and I'm having a hard time. So. All right, last question. Are you prepared to abide by and sign the Code of Ethics for school board members?
Yes, sir, I've already signed mine. It's the same thing I used on the library, and it's worked.
Okay, I'll be loud. Of course. In life, I believe you have to go to bed every night with a clear conscience and be able to sleep. And in that, I feel like everything you do throughout your day is a way that you can live with. Anyhow, I don't sleep all well as it is. But, of course, like we've talked about, it's about honesty, integrity, being of your word, and keeping in mind the kids are the focus of everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, it's good to have those directives and to know that everybody has to abide by them.
Yes. No, those were our organized questions, but I do want to leave out, because once we close questions, we're not going to go back. And did this process generate a question?
Yes.
Okay. And that board members would like to ask, and keep in mind that you ask a question, it goes to all candidates. So you said you had one?
Yes, I do. Being on a school board means being part of a cooperative group that gets along, discusses and gets along. I'm interested to know, what style of leadership do you see as a board member and also as an individual? What's your leadership style?
Where do we leave off? I think if we start at the beginning again. Okay.
I would say my leadership style is to be clear of my expectations, but to always be open-minded and to listen to everybody around me. And that in the end, the goal is to do the right thing. And in my business, to do what my client wants. And you started out about working together. We're in competitive, we have competitive companies, and we are sitting here enjoying actually getting to see each other. And so I think this is a good example for both of us of how we collaborate and work with others.
I've been working with the public since I was 8 years old. My parents own a nursery. We moved to Idaho when I was 8. And I started running the cash register. And so I've been working with the public for a really long time. I paid for college by waiting tables and being a bartender. I'm very much a people person. I'm a very good listener. And before I make a decision, I like to listen and hear out the facts. I would like to say that I'm pretty well balanced in weighing decisions and just being open-minded to not being married to my opinion. So,
Thank you.
As far as leadership, I lead by example. I'm a very good listener. I'm respectful of other people's opinion, even if I don't agree. I was a bridal shop owner for 22 years. I had to deal with bridezillas. That was a challenge. And talk about customer service when you have to deal with somebody who thinks she's a princess. It's taught me a lot of patience, a lot of good listening skills, and I hope that serves me well in this new role.
I think listening is one of the best leadership attributes anybody can have. I've learned to do that. Being non-judgmental, having camaraderie with the others on the board. I think it's important to not take myself too seriously. And I really love listening to other people's opinions and how they achieved them. Learning is learning every day, and being open to learning, I think, is also a leadership style.
I see myself as a lead by example and the why. My students always called me the why teacher. When they would give me an answer to a question, especially in science or social studies, my response was always why. I wanted that deeper understanding. And as a leader, I want to know why. Why should we do this?
Well, leadership is something I did not have before I went into service, unless I was leading one of my friends into getting in trouble. but nothing serious, thank goodness. But in the service, I learned to listen to my troops, because if you're doing something wrong, they're going to say something. And I had a master sergeant when I was junior, and he told me, he says, remember this, you're leading men that you give rifles to, and they got bullets. Some of them know where the nerve gas is stored. And I brought that out here in the world, and I used it when I had 170 drivers, 74 rigs, 24 hours a day on the road, while I was putting about $400,000 on mine as a manager between Roseville, California, and Pasco, Washington, and Spokane. And you listen to what they're saying. If I was doing something wrong or something wasn't right, I made every opportunity for them to listen, to speak to me, and I would listen to them. And most of the time, they were right. I don't know everything. Teacher once told me that you don't know everything. She's my English teacher, Mrs. Parker, if anybody knew her. But she did teach me how to write. She sees my cursive now. She would be cursing. But if you cannot sit on a board and listen to people below you, people above you, people alongside you, you might hear a best idea in the world sitting in a restaurant having lunch, and the guy behind you is talking about something over at his company. I'm not beyond stealing an idea unless he's got it patent. If he's got a patent on it, I leave it alone. I don't want to pay for it. I'm cheap. But the main thing is listening, responding, and give them the leadership, the faith that you're going to do the best for them if they do the best for you.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'll preface it a little bit. My background, I was that PTA mom, the substitute teacher, worked for the school district. When I came to the board, on my agenda, I guess if I was to have one, was to support those parents that I worked with side by side, those kids that I was in the classroom with, and those teachers and administration that I really got to know on a much personal level. Do you have any personal agendas that you are also going to be bringing to the table? Sure. We'll start with that now.
No, I don't have a personal agenda. This is just something that I have wanted to do as part of a community outreach and part of a community service. It's a way to support the teachers because they do a job that I don't think I know I couldn't do, especially at junior high. I don't have a personal agenda. So.
I don't have a personal agenda. I just had the experience when I'm offering my service. Like I said, my kids are out of school, and I just want to be a voice and a liaison between the board and the people that I represent in Zone 1.
No, I don't have a personal agenda. Probably have wish lists, but those are mine and my responsibility to get them where they need to go. I'm not going to burden others with them.
I do have a personal agenda. And my personal agenda is to see a board that continues on with the great work that this board is doing. I've seen in my tenure as a teacher the worst boards, and believe me, we are light years ahead of that now, and I want to see it continue.
I'll say amen to that, but I do have an agenda. One is to fit into a board to pass some leadership down through the teachers to the students. Because I run into young people out here on the street, and they might ask me a question. To me, it's a dumb question. I've heard it dozens of times. To them, it's a question they need answered. And they will ask it. Others are misbehaving because no control, whether it's at home, at school, or wherever it's at. It's not my job to raise everybody's child, but it is my job to prepare them for that next step. And with what I had in my experience with school, when I came out of high school, even if I was an unruly child, that's a nice way to put it. I won't tell you how Judge Sleep said, but she said, join the Marine Corps, and that's why I joined. The best thing that woman ever did to me. And when I came home, I thanked her. Because I learned that I'm not the only one in this world. There's other people around me that's part of it. And you gotta fit in. Doesn't say you have to be conform and be just like them. That's, my agenda is to assist, if I get to be from District 1, to help maybe 1 or 2 students fulfill their dream and do it right.
Okay.
And then,
Back to there.
I would say I do have an agenda. I want our school district to continue being one of the best districts in the state. And I also believe you can't complain if you're not going to be part of the solution. So I've got 11 more years in this district and with students in this district. And I do have an agenda. I want to make sure that the education that my boys get are going to make them successful, as well as all the other students, and to continue what we've been doing.
She went first.
Yeah.
Geraldine, do you have any?
I don't have any questions to add. That was
Okay.
thorough.
All right. Okay, so I want to thank the candidates for answering those questions. Did a great job. We're going to close the questions. The board's going to discuss this right here. And then when we're done discussing, then I'll call for nominations. So I'm going to lead off by saying I think we're fortunate to have 6 terrific candidates. It makes the decision process that much harder. I didn't fathom that we would have this many wonderful people coming up and wanting to be part of the school board. And I feel very fortunate on one hand, and then on the other hand, what a dilemma of trying to pick one. And so that's going to be my opening comment. I mean, I could probably, for various reasons, there's strengths and I'm not going to say weaknesses. I'm just going to say each candidate probably has their own strengths, and for varying reasons, all good reasons. I just want to open up for any kind of discussion or comments that the board wants to make.
I'd like to echo your sentiment of, I think everybody brings something to the table. If we just wrap it all into one person, that would be better. But, yeah, I appreciate just the people showing up for the interest, and that's the dedication to our school district. It's a pretty big task.
I agree. I feel honored that to hear from you all, to hear your answers tonight. I learned things. I took notes about how I can improve. I heard things in your answers that I need to do that better. So I thank you for the time you put in, both on your applications and in your sincere answers tonight. Everybody, it just said some wonderful things, and it's humbling to have to nominate just one. It's kind of hard.
I would have to say 14 years ago, I went through this same procedure. So I understand the pressure that's here, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, even though we don't pay you anything. I understand that. And I was chosen from 5 people. It was 4 men and me. And I was chosen to fill out somebody's term, which I did, and then I ran, and I've been on the board ever since. But so for me, 14 years has been a very long time. I've seen, for the most part, worked with wonderful, wonderful boards. We're all different people. We all have different kinds of opinions. We all come from different backgrounds, but we're able to come together and work together as a team. So that's, and I see this in all of you, that you're all team players. So I'm very happy to be here, and you have made this choice. It's going to be very hard. But thank you.
Any discussion?
What's our next step, Steve?
Well, when we're done discussing, the next step is to open it for nominations. And I just want to make sure that we've said everything that we need to say in that regard. I mean, I'm having a very difficult time, quite frankly, because we have such quality candidates.
Do you have to do it in public? I mean,
Yes.
is it like
Yes.
a-
No,
It's-
this is,
Has to be
there's,
public.
I'll answer that question. There are, and we operate, in the absence of a specific board policy, we operate under the Roberts rules. And in there are several ways to cast votes. And the way we're going to do it tonight is with a roll call. And so we discuss it, all the discussion is in public. And then when we're done, we'll have a nomination process and then do a roll call vote. So that's how this is going to unfold as we continue forward. I'm stalling just because it's plagued by indecision here. We have so many good candidates.
I know. No.
Should we just go down the line?
No.
Do you not want, or are you okay with the open call?
Yes, it's uncomfortable to have to do it in that.
That's why you get the big bucks.
And we're all trying to get those big bucks.
Yeah, everybody wants it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll throw some discussion out there. And that is that there's, we've lost all of our board members that have children in the district now. And I think, there's a good part to that, okay? Having someone in that section, and so that's, I will say that. The other is geography and getting closer to, while Clark Fork's not the exclusive area of it's kind of the hub of the district. It's certainly not exclusive by any means. And so there's some positive attributes to having someone closer to that community, where the largest school in that, well, it's not the largest actually, the grade-wise, the upper 7 through 12, which is kind of a community hub there, exists. So, I mean, that's another,
Say geography did not weigh in on my decision because I can't.
I'm just
Yeah.
rolling here.
Yeah. I can't
And
control that.
and those are all the considerations that are rolling through my mind. And I'm not putting them in order of weight, by the way. I'm just
Throwing it.
Just jabbering.
free flowing the thoughts out there. So I don't know. I mean, and the other thing is, and I don't want to, well, I guess, the risk of sounding politically incorrect. It is nice to have a little bit of gender balance on the board at the same time, and
That
so.
is politically incorrect.
Yeah, I know, but that's just me. And so there's some, I could, because it's different viewpoints. And I think those are important. It's important to have different views. It's nice to have everyone have the same overarching goal, which is to be the highest performing district in the state. Now, there's always different ways to get there, and that's usually where the debate lies, is, okay, so we all agree we want to be number one, but how are we going to get there? And then you know, let the discussion begin. And so having different perspectives, I think, is a good thing, you know, it's a positive thing. All right, I've jabbered enough. Come on, I mean, you know, jump in.
So, how do you want this to work? Do you just want each of us to nominate?
No,
one
I want,
person?
when we're done with discussions, I'll open it up and I'll take nominations in the order they come. So everyone doesn't have to nominate someone. But when we get to that point, we'll open it up, and whoever feels compelled to make a nomination will do that. But I would like to hear some thoughts on what everyone's thinking. I mean, you don't have to talk about a specific candidate, but at least what's the thought process that's rolling through your mind?
It's very hard.
It is hard. I went and I tried to take notes, key points on answers, and circle things that jumped out, and then unfortunately I look at it and I kept circling everybody randomly, and that made it even. But I keyed in on certain things when people talked about availability to the community and to the public, and I keyed in on liking when people talked about looking ahead and the kids come first, and when they talked about, there were a few curriculum ideas I liked where they talked about that two-way street between teachers and administration. And so when it comes to a nomination, I'm going to just look down the list and see what things I circled about that person, because there's so many good ideas that came out tonight. It's not any one thing, you know?
Okay. I do.
You know, whether you have kids in the system or not, I think that's a moot point. I don't think that should.
Well, I just was
Yeah.
rolling off some things to weigh, and I wasn't putting them in any particular order, but I was just calling out some differences, and so there's
discussing
one.
it.
Yeah, no, but I just don't want you to think that I was putting them in order of.
Yeah.
I was just saying that there is different aspects here, and those are things for consideration.
For sure.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, community is a huge thing. And the working knowledge, I think, of how school boards or schools are operating, how the challenges that we face, that working knowledge, I think would, you know, pretty beneficial to somebody jumping in. You know, that's how I'm thinking, you know, kind of hit the ground running type of thing.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Nope, I've said it all.
Really? All right. Wow. Well, I want to take a few minutes to kind of go over my notes and look at some of the application information. And so, just want to take a short break, meaning from discussion, go ahead, and meanwhile, if anyone has any discussion, then just speak up and we'll stop doing that. Okay, I'll tell you what. So, a quick 5-minute break for the restroom, and I'm going to remind the board, no discussion with yourself, amongst yourself, or with the patrons. So you can take a potty break, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Well, thanks, Steve.
You're welcome. Okay, we're going to go back in session. Thank you all for your patience. Anyway, I'm going to read through some of this, my notes, and things quickly.
Did you do that over break?
No.
That could happen. You gotta eat them all at once.
Well, it hasn't gotten it hasn't gotten any easier. You done?
Yeah,
We done with
discussion.
is everyone ready to open the floor for nominations?
I guess so.
Okay, well, then I'll open the floor for nominations.
I'll go first. Thank you all again for applying for this position. For me, I would, for my reasons and the answers given in the resume, I'd like to nominate Mr. Decker. I do appreciate every single candidate out here greatly.
Okay. Now, I'll remind everyone, nominations do not require a second. Does anyone else have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Mel.
Me?
Yeah. I really like your down-to-earth answers, and I really think you're a very dedicated person. And I liked in your resume where you said, if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. And then they're done that, so that's my nomination.
Any more?
Do you have a nomination?
You can't nominate them all, huh?
I know.
Hmm? Oh,
I would like to put forward a nomination for Barbara Schreiber. Looking at my, did I say Alyssa correctly? Looking at my answers, I feel you were a very strong candidate for the position also.
Okay, so I'm going to close nominations. We're going to vote in order of, and if no candidate gets 3 votes, we're going to open it back up and have the same discussion and do nominations again. And so before we start, I'm going to say again, I just don't see a wrong answer with any of these folks, and it's a really difficult. I wished it was easier, quite frankly. But okay, so I'm going to call the and we're going to do a roll call. I'm going to start with Geraldine, move our way down, and I'm going to start with Mr. Decker.
So
Yes, please.
can I answer yes on more than one nomination?
Yeah, if the first one, the first nominee to get 3 votes wins, process stops. And so
Yeah, you've got 1 vote, though. You're voting for one of these 3.
Okay,
don't-
so that's different than what.
I
you
don't
just
think
said.
so.
No.
No, I don't think so. You take each nominee,
Yes, and the first of 3. The first of 3 gets nominated.
Okay, so you may or may not get to that point. So
Right. You start,
if
There
the
could be
first
a
person
tie.
gets 3, then it's
Then
over.
it stops, correct. So we vote for the first nominee. If it's a, if it's
Yeah.
a, if they lose or it's a tie, we move to the next one, so on and so forth, until we have a nominee that gets 3 votes. So in theory, you could vote yes on 3 people, if the first one fails and the second one fails, and then we got to the third.
and I have to vote first.
You
On
do.
Mr. Decker, yes. I'm going to put a vote in as yes.
Just a moment. Okay, Barb?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I guess I'm kind of irrelevant, but I will,
We still like you.
I know, yes. However, I will say yes. And so Mr. Decker does get the nomination. And,
That was it?
and I would like to congratulate you. The next process is going to be to, did you bring the oath of?
No, that would be at the annual meeting. So he's nominated, so at our annual meeting, he takes his official oath, just like when Geraldine last year,
Right, I didn't take it out
And
and
Joel.
sign anything until.
Okay.
until our annual meeting.
No summer vacation for you. And we'll do that. So thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for showing up. I want to thank the candidates. We are dismissed.
Thank you all. That went really abruptly fast.
My friend.
Thank you all.
No, not that
Well, no, it sounds. Yeah, don't worry. And I, like, you got us. All good. I put one.